Good afternoon, everybody. It's Friday yet again. It's time for another shop update. Let's get cracking with it. Get yourself seated in a comfy, cozy position, a snack of your choice, a beverage of your choice, and let's sit back, shall we? Let's talk about some cars. That's what we're here for. All right, let's do this. I'm going to start on this side of the shop this week. I usually start on the other side of the shop with the white Defender 90 project, but I'm pretty sure I'm getting bored with starting over there. And I'm pretty sure you, the viewer, are getting bored with seeing that over there too. So, I mean, the owner of it's probably not. He probably enjoys seeing it, but I'm doing this for the rest of us, okay? So, we'll start over here. We'll start with the Defender 110 Cummins R 2.8 turbo diesel swap. Man, that's a mouthful to say. God, there's a lot of numbers in there too. Whew. Anyway, I don't have a lot to update you with on this, other than the owner stopped by. We chatted for a little while. We talked about the issues that we've been running into, or the issues that we ran into. Our critiques of some of the things that are out there that have been talking about these kinds of swaps, and kind of the, I wouldn't say lack of knowledge, but kind of the fact that we're still kind of breaking new ground with these, even though it's about 4 years on since this engine package came out. We're still kind of breaking new ground with these Defender swaps, which is good. It's both a good thing and a bad thing, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that Land Rover every other week changed the Defender. They kept changing stuff on these things, and you'll get a hodgepodge of different variations. Not only on top of that, but you have the fact that these are old, and a lot of the times they're utility. And what happens is that they get parts from other ones put on them and stuff like that. So you get kind of a I guess the term is bitsa, bits from other people, bits from other things. You get bits of Land Rovers sometimes. This one's not quite that. This one's not that, but it is kind of one of those weird model years where it's got this floor and that transmission and this. Yeah, it gets weird. So, because of that, we talked to the owner. There's a lot of parts that he bought from Quick Draw Conversion Company that we are not going to be using as of right now. Tentatively, we're not using them. We haven't seen a need for them just yet. And we talked about whether or not we could return those parts, whether or not it was feasible. Totally understandable if we couldn't. But that we may end up selling some of those special brackets and special conversion pieces that come from Quick Draw. Because in all honesty, it was a lot of money for the kit that wasn't really a kit. And that's not really a fault of Quick Draw. I want you to understand that. It's not really their fault. They don't actually list a kit minus the engine on their website. They list a kit that comes with the engine and transmission and all the other stuff on their website. But they don't actually list a kit minus the engine and transmission, which is what we ordered. So, that being said, it came with a lot of extra stuff. I've said that in previous videos. It came with a lot of extra stuff we didn't actually need, or we aren't going to need. And that's both a nice thing and kind of a negative, because you're paying for that extra stuff. So that's kind of the negative part of it. But it's nice because you have it on hand if you do need it. And I get that logic behind it, but that is a very costly logic train that you're on with that one. So, not necessarily the way I would do it. So if you are somebody who is interested in doing one of these swaps on your own Land Rover Defender, I would say instead of buying a kit, because I don't think anybody has an actual just bolt-in kit because of all the differences in these trucks, I would say order the basic stuff that you need, the bell housing adapter or the transmission swap or whatever it is that you need. Order that stuff first, maybe some motor mount parts, that kind of stuff. And then as you go along, you'll start to figure out the other stuff that you need for this swap. And then you can figure out, like, okay, well, the steering box is in the way on this one, so I need this part. And, the down pipe on the turbo setup is, in the way of this, so I need to order this other down pipe from. I would say that's a better way of going about with it. It's certainly a better cost-effective way for you, the average Joe or Jane, doing this kind of stuff. So that's my word of advice. As far as quality is concerned on the quick draw stuff, I can't stress this enough. Fantastic quality. Absolutely stellar quality stuff. Really, really good stuff. No problems there. No issues with that whatsoever. The Defender or the Cummins stuff is looking great too. The quality of this product, I know it's made in China. This particular engine is built and assembled in China. But don't let that be a negative marker. It's not. It's not even kind of a negative marker. Still a stout product. Very, very, very well made. We got the go-ahead on doing suspension stuff from the owner, which it needs, and we got the go-ahead on fixing all of the rust issues. Of course, we kind of figured that was going to happen, but we always like to ask owners, hey, we found this. Do you want us to address that or not? Normally, the owners will say, yeah, of course, I want you to fix the problems on the vehicle as you find them. Sometimes the budget constraints are like, well, can we get to it later? And if so, maybe we'll do it down the line. He said, go ahead with the suspension. Go ahead with the sheet metal work. He does want his firewall painted to match the rest of the truck, along with any other things inside the engine, inside the fenders and stuff that you can see the fire engine red color. He wants those to match the rest of the green. This green is Galway green, which is a Land Rover color. So that works. We can do that one pretty easily. We've got a little shifted. We've shifted some things around in here, as you'll notice as I'm panning through. You'll notice the XJS has moved over in here to the hole. We're going to call it the hole. There's a lot of holes here. We've got to do an estimate on this car. Now, it's not because there's a 90% chance likely that we're not going to be fixing this car. But we still need to do an estimate. We need to do an estimate for predominantly the insurance company. They need to know how much it would cost to fix this car. Okay, and they have a number in their head. We don't know what it is, but they have a number in their head, whether it's some statistical analysis, some percentage marker, some whatever it is. I don't know. But there's a number that they have that says if you hit this number in terms of how much it costs to fix this, we just write it off. We total out the car. It's not worth fixing. So if it was $200 to fix everything that's wrong on this car from the fire damage, they'd probably say, yeah, let's go ahead and fix it. But if it's $20,000, they're going to be like, it's too much. We're going to total it out, and we'll give you a certain number. But that's all between the insurance company and the owner. What they need from us is an estimate on what it takes to fix this. Now, these cars are not as loved as, say, their predecessor, which was the E-Type Jaguar. And, they're British Leyland era Jags. They ran for a really long time. There's a lot of variations, much like the Defender, of this car. Even though they physically all kind of look the same, there's a lot of changes that have happened throughout the years. That being said, that means the aftermarket parts industry does not quite keep up with every little tiny difference between each model year. So that means that sometimes, and a lot of the times, you can't get parts for these because the aftermarket just hasn't caught up with doing these. These aren't loved cars yet. They're not E-Types. E-Types are six-figure automobiles, and so you can buy everything you ever needed for an E-Type of almost every variation. I would say that the later 12-cylinder cars get a little, there's some stuff you can't get. But these, it's you either find it in a junkyard or sometimes it just doesn't exist. There's a lot of new old stock stuff still coming out of dealerships that phase out their inventory. They sell their inventory to aftermarket suppliers, and the aftermarket suppliers just run that inventory down, but they don't order new stuff. And they don't get stuff made. That doesn't happen until these cars start to take off in value or enthusiast level of want. So that means that stuff like, hey, is there an engine bay wiring harness? Probably not. And knowing Jaguar, it is probably called a main harness, and it also goes into the dashboard area. And they probably don't have it for this particular model year car. They probably have it for a 1976, but not for a 1989. So you've got to go through and say, well, how long would it take me to fix all the wires that are burned up? How long would it take me to replace all the hoses that are bad? What about sensors that have melted? Gaskets that have burned up too much? All that stuff. So we've got to go through and figure all that out. And it's kind of a silly thing to do on a business standpoint because it's a lot of work. I mean, we're talking minimum 2 hours to do that. But it can take a day, sometimes 2 days, to do an estimate properly for something like this. And you're figuring out where you're sourcing all the parts, how long it takes to do something, so on and so forth. And you write all those numbers down, you hand it off to somebody, and as a business, you normally don't get paid for it. So the only way that you would get paid for it is if the owner says, I want to fix it, and you go ahead and do it. But you still don't get paid for doing the estimate. You just get paid to do the job. So it's why we don't tend to do a lot of work with insurance companies in terms of estimates and stuff like that. We'll do it, but we're hesitant. But we've got to get that done. That's a big one. There's a lot of big ones, guys. There's a lot of big ones. But this week, the seats are back in the Sunbeam. Interior's cleaned up. We've got to do a detailing on the outside of the car. Got to do a good wipe down on the interior. I didn't detail the interior. I just did a vacuuming and stuff like that. I got it up and running. There was a little bit of issues with the brakes. We've straightened those out today. I started doing a little tuning on it because it's having a little problems. It was running on. You'd shut it off and it would run on, meaning that you'd turn the key off so the engine should stop and the engine would continue to run. Usually, about 9 times out of 10, that's a timing issue, meaning your distributor timing is not quite where it needs to be to the engine. I put a timing light on this engine, found that at idle, this thing was set at 20 degrees before top dead center for the timing. That means that the spark plug was going off with the piston 20 degrees, or the crankshaft 20 degrees, before that piston raised up to top dead center in that cylinder. That is incorrect for this car by a long shot. I haven't looked up what the number actually is, but I'm going to hazard a good guess, and maybe some of you Sunbeam folk out there will know the number off the top of your head. But I'm going to say the timing on this is probably 5 to 7 degrees before top dead center, and it's at 20. So I got in there, and I said, it's easy to adjust timing. I'll just adjust the timing. I started with a micro adjuster to see how far I could adjust it back. I got it down to 12 degrees before top dead center with the micro adjuster, which is still not there. We're still not there, but it was better. It did run on a little bit, but it wasn't just, it eventually killed itself out. It didn't just keep running on, whereas before it just kept going. It just kept going and going and going. So we're still out on timing. I went to loosen the clamp bolt to adjust it by moving the distributor, and realized that I think I know why it's never been timed properly, and that is because whoever put the distributor in the engine has the vacuum advance physically hitting the engine block, so you cannot move the distributor any further to pull timing out of it. So I get to, on Monday, rectify that issue so that it can go home back to its owner running well. It didn't come in for this stuff, but it's like, yeah, nobody wants to pick up their car after paying a big bill and it runs like dog shit. Nobody wants that. It's not a given. We don't always do it, but if you're a good customer, we don't mind helping you out with this stuff. So we're going to take care of that on Monday and get it squared away. The carburetors were also way out of whack. I actually tuned those already, even though the timing wasn't right, and I got them good. I'll have to revisit the carburetors after I do timing just to verify that they're okay. They're probably going to be fine, but just to verify that they're okay. It was running on one carburetor and one carburetor only. So we're getting it squared away. Next week, it'll be done for sure. Probably Monday or Tuesday it'll be finished up. It may not leave next week. The owner is, she's got a lot of health issues in her life, so it may not get picked up next week, but it'll certainly be all done and finished, and we'll be happy to pull it in and out every day. I've moved a few things around in the shop. You see the Healy's here, the Triumph's here. We've got to get cracking on these bodywork cars over here. The Triumph needs some color, and the A needs a little bit more sheet metal work. We also need to get cracking on this Healy here. We need to get putting it back together. Those are on the agenda. Also on the agenda is this Lagonda. This is a big one. The owner, we talked to the owner this week, he has signed himself and his wife and this car up for a big event here in the United States called the Colorado Grand. Now, it's tentative as to whether or not he will be actually allowed to participate. It is an invite-only kind of thing. You put in basically, you fill out a resume and you send it to him. You say, this is the car I've got. This is who I am. Would you like me on your event? And in all honesty, like, he was worried. He picked this car. He's got a few other cars to choose from. He picked this car. His other car that he thought about sending in was an Aston Martin DB6 that he owns. And he was worried that the DB6 was too mundane. It was too pedestrian for the Colorado Grand. And that's not really what he was worried about. He doesn't think it's a pedestrian car. He doesn't think it's mundane. But he's worried that the runners of the Colorado Grand will think that Aston Martin DB6 is a little bit too pedestrian for their event. They want something with a little more history and pizzazz to it. A little bit more rarity, a little bit more interesting things about it. And this is certainly a good candidate for that. So, we are kind of figuring out a game plan as to whether or not we, can get it done for September, which is, I think, what the Colorado Grand is. And, basically, we're just trying to figure out if we can get it done for that. It's a tall order. It's a big order. He's a great customer. And we definitely take on a lot of tall orders for him. But we're happy to do it. We just need to see, if it's possible. We just need to see if it's possible. So that one may have a lot more updates coming up here soon. And you're thinking, hey, you don't have enough people to do all this stuff. What are you talking about? You're not going to get all these moved along. Well, we got to hire somebody. We have to get somebody here. We have to. There's no more ifs, ands, or buts about it. We got to get somebody else in here to help us out with this stuff because there's a lot to bite off here. A lot. So, on to the last one. I know you guys have been waiting with bated breath to hear all about it. It's the Defender 90 project. That's right. I wasn't going to forget her. Christian has been doing a lot of work on this one again this week. He has the back door. It's off now. All the holes have been drilled. It's been block sanded. It's been block sanded again. It's been painted. It's been wet sanded. It's been recoated in another coat of paint because that's a good job. And there it sits. It's right there on the stand. This is the stand that's drying on. He did actually paint the outside of this on the stand. He'll get this wet sanded down on Monday probably. Blocked out, wet sanded down, and polished up. And then we'll get it mounted up hopefully next week. Probably Monday, Tuesday, we'll get it mounted up on the truck. And then we can start assembling the back door stuff and all of that snazzy stuff. I may be jumping over here to help him out on this project just because there's a lot to do and we need to get it moved along. So getting me on it with him, we'll certainly get a lot of things checked off the list. We talked to the owner this week as well about his truck, about his wonderful Defender project. He's apparently been hoarding the battery. He's been driving it around, chauffeuring the battery that we need. He's been chauffeuring it around town. Shame on him. I know that he watches these, so it's all in jest. But he's going to get us the battery here soon, and we'll sort out the rest of his running issues and any electrical issues, because we did find a couple of electrical issues under the dashboard there, so we'll get those sorted out as well, and then we'll get his dashboard buttoned up, his engine buttoned up, and we'll get it all buttoned up. That is all of it. That is my rambling for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it very, very much. If you have, please like and subscribe to the channel. Go back and watch some of those old videos too. If you're new to this, they are just as entertaining as this one. I mean, I swear it. I'm a funny guy. I'm not though. Anyway, I will see you all next week. I hope you have a lovely weekend and a lovely week. Cool? That's it. Bye.